Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Sustainable Business Council's first sustainability shot for the fall season. We have 3 in a row coming up, and this is the first one. My name is Jenny Mish. I'll just stand up, and I tried to introduce myself to as many of you as I could, one-on-one. I've been back in Missoula for almost a month. Tomorrow it will be 1 month, after being gone for 9 years. I did my master's in business administration at the University of Montana and did coursework with Susan Anderson and helped her do the original surveys of local businesses that, led to the formation of this group. And then I went off and got a PhD in sustainable business and taught at the University of Notre Dame for 4 years as a faculty member. And I'm really excited to be back in Missoula. So I'm interested in input for the direction of the SBC and other things that the organization can do in the community, and thrilled to be part of it and back among all of you. So it's nice to have all of you here. The Sustainable Business Council has, as I said, 2 other sustainable shots coming up. On October 16th, we're going to be having a presentation on climate change. There's a group locally that has been organizing to try and see if we can do a community-wide response to climate change. There are a number of key institutions that have their own climate change plans, but this will be an opportunity to kind of see what a community discussion, community-wide discussion where that can go. Jill Albin from the Clark Fork Coalition will be joining us. So keep that in mind for October 16th, and then on November 5th, we'll be having someone from Blackfoot Communications talking about greening the bits on the Information and Communications Highway. So that will be exciting to look at different topics and different sectors coming up in the next couple months. We also have a brand new website, which I'm kind of giving you sneak information that our new website has the ability to highlight each member's new promotions. They can change their web page on our website and communicate directly with our members that way. So we'll be having a launch party, and if you are a member or interested in being a member, please talk to us about that new possibility. So tonight's panel, I'm delighted to introduce this panel, and the topic of this panel, of course, is alternative employee benefits. And it's one of the business journalists that covers a lot of sustainability, who I've followed quite a bit, is Mark Gunther. He's a key editor and writer at greenbiz.com, which I highly recommend for people who are looking for sources of sustainable business news. And he says that he thinks that that the single biggest business driver of corporate sustainability initiatives is the impact on employees. Jeff Immelt, who is the CEO of GE, once said that the biggest benefit from the Eco Imagination program that GE started is the impact on attracting better employees. So it's kind of this hidden aspect of sustainability sometimes. People don't often think about it. Often employees and their HR colleagues are overlooked when companies undertake sustainable programs. But the research clearly shows that it's an important factor. Satisfies employees. The 100 best companies to work for in America have 2.3 to 3.8% higher stock returns than other companies, which you might say, well, that doesn't really apply around here. But there's also research showing that of 171 small and medium-sized companies in manufacturing, those companies also had higher financial returns. There's studies that show that there's increased productivity when employees have higher satisfaction, which comes from feeling better about the shared vision, relationships with stakeholders, and strategic proactivity in one's community that are often part of sustainability programs. There's also a lot of academic research showing that job seekers are really attracted to organizations that have strong employee sustainability programs. And so there's at least 12 peer-reviewed studies that show that. And one of the big draws is that it's a source of employee pride. Employees really like to work at organizations that have a sustainability plan in place and is really making strides. A second mechanism is that job seekers really like to work for companies because that have sustainability programs, because it implies that the company cares about its employees. So this is a really big factor, is if you want to, and then the third factor is that it helps them connect specific organizational values to their own personal values. So there's tons of research out there. If you're interested in research on sustainability in business, there's a great organization that summarizes the academic research and makes it a bit really accessible to people. It's called the Network for Business Sustainability, and their website is nbs.net. It's a Canadian organization. And then greenbiz.com is another one where you can find, I could keep going, but I think I will introduce our panelists. So our first panelist is Lisa Swallow, who has been a two-time board member for the Sustainable Business Council, has been a very influential person in the development of the Sustainable Business Council. She's the author of a book that we have several copies of on the counter over there called Green Business for Dummies, which makes it all very
Please push my sales over 50.
There we go. She's a CPA. She teaches sustainable business at Missoula College and also at the University of Montana. She's particularly interested in small businesses and sustainability, and she's spent more than half her life in Western Montana. She loves open space, local economies, the woods, Flathead Lake, her partner, 2 sons, and her golden retriever.
So you're going to introduce panelists between us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I stop you guys? Do you feel like you need the mic? I do have a mic.
I don't, but
Okay. Does anybody
Can you
feel like
hear
they
fine?
hear better? Yeah. Okay. Can you hear fine? Okay. Let me know because I can't amplify anybody who doesn't speak up. So that's your threat. Talk over it.
I can vouch to her loud voice. Hi and welcome. Thanks for being here. It's a real pleasure to be at one of these venues. I love the Sustainability Shots because it gives us a chance for sort of an intimate conversation, and it also gives a chance to showcase community members that are walking the walk. So unfortunately, you're going to have to bear through a little bit of academic background. I've been in the classroom for 20 years. But before I launch into that, I would like to take kind of a step backward in time. Pre-academia, I was the CFO for 2 startup companies, both in the Rocky Mountains, one located in Fort Collins, Colorado, and one here in Missoula. And as is common in many startups, you wear multiple hats, right? So I managed the financial accounting department, and HR just sort of all of a sudden rolled into my purview. I had no education in it, no experience in it, absolutely really no idea what HR management was all about. But I was immediately intrigued by the possibility, the potential in human resource management to incentivize and motivate your employees to be value congruent with your organization and help them in value congruence and to behave in a way that was beneficial for both them and the organization. And this doesn't sound so revolutionary saying that now in 2013, but I can assure you, reflecting 20 years ago, there was not a lot of creativity or innovation in HR compensation, development, benefit package development. I mean, it was pretty status quo, right? You got your 3% COLA. There might be some really out there pay for performance things. There were a few benefits that might have been sort of, on the cutting edge, but there really wasn't much that allowed you to package your company's values and mission and take it to your employees to help incentivize them. So one of my key takeaways looking back on 20 years ago is that a really well-designed and structured and administered HR program clearly has to further the company's mission, right? And I think we're going to hear that from these 3 ladies, most assuredly, how they've crafted these packages that have done just that. I'd like to play a little bit on what Jen was talking about earlier about the research surrounding this, and this is just my few little moments allowing me to put on my professor hat. But when we talk about sustainability and how that increases business value, I think it's really important that we make this really concrete, tangible business plan for it, right? This business case for why it's a good, actionable plan. And one of the 6 key facets is that employees that work for companies that are engaged in sustainable practices, the company has less absenteeism, less turnover, i.e. saves money. The employees are more productive, and they also possess this enhanced capacity for entrepreneurialism. So it's actually got a made-up noun called intrapreneurialism, which means I work for a company that I don't have ownership in, but I exhibit entrepreneurial characteristics, right? I'm a risk taker, I'm innovative, I'm encouraged to think out of the box, all those things that you want your employees to do to create business value. So there's pretty strong research that's coming out that shows that sustainability and enhanced employee recruiting and retention numbers are pretty intimately linked. So when I was asked to do this talk, I started thinking about what sorts of attributes or characteristics I thought a well-designed alternative benefit package plan would have. So what would be the characteristics of that plan? And what I came up with is that plan, obviously, any benefit package has to provide value to your employees, right? And not only does it have to provide concrete value, but they have to perceive that it provides them value, right? I'm sure you've all worked in companies where somebody, harried accountant comes around and says, sign up for this, it's good for you. And you're like, gosh, there's this packet of, 16 pages of small print. You don't even really know what the benefit is. So I think the benefit has to appeal to the employees and provide value to them. But I also think from a sustainability aspect that it has to encourage them to behave in a way that maximizes the triple bottom line. And triple bottom line, of course, being having positive impact on people, planet, and profit. So when you look at your alternative benefit package development, your question is what I'm thinking about doing going to positively impact each of those bottom lines, right? So I went out and I scanned companies, many of them larger, quite progressive companies, but I think the design of this alternative benefit package is only as broad as your imagination. So I'd like to share with you, so what I did when I went out and did the scan is it was all over the place, and I sort of, being an accountant, had to categorize them into genres, which I did for them, and I'll share with you what I thought were some of the most interesting benefit packages that were out there. So the genres that I chose was, and again, enhancing the triple bottom line, not just for the employee in their professional workplace, but also how they bring it into their personal life and into their communities. So I think that's really imperative too, that those benefits enhance their professional, personal, and community-based life. So the first genre that I sort of packaged these into was encouraging community behavior. How do we provide a benefit that also encourages community behavior? Well, Patagonia chooses to do that by giving 5 paid hours a month to their employees to go volunteer in an organization of their choice. So being a Patagonia employee, the odds are I'm probably choosing an environmental organization. So that's an easy triple bottom line, right? People, planet, profit, right? You have empowered employees working for environmental organizations, probably, and also participating in community life. Apple, being cash rich, and matches employees' donations dollar for dollar up to 10 grand a year. It doesn't have to be 10 grand, it could be 100. It doesn't matter. The point is, if you choose an organization that's a valid 501c3, I'm going to match it, thereby empowering you to double your giving, right? Wow, what a great thing for employees. Our son, oldest son, works for DPR Construction in San Francisco. And although it's not part of their benefit package per se, they are strongly encouraged in their performance evaluation to exhibit pro bono work. And the company helps them to do that, provides them with organizations that they support. So as a young engineer, he's learning how to go into the community and participate in these sort of activities. So I put that whole category of items under encouraging and participating in community. So quickly, I have 3 more categories. Modeling energy efficiency. This one's easy. How do I help my employees lessen their carbon footprint? Cliff Bar helps you make a down payment towards energy retrofitting or buying a hybrid. Bank of America gives you flat out $3,000 towards buying your first hybrid. Seventh generation incentivizes you installing alternative energy systems in your home. That's a second category. Third category I pulled out, even though it lessens your carbon footprint into its own, changing transportation habits. We already do a lot of this. Encourage telecommuting, set up ride boards, put the down payment on the van pool system so that your employees can carpool. Set up a qualified transportation benefit plan, which Trinda's going to talk about. Urban companies such as Yammer and Stumbledon are doing things like buying flex cars and bikes, so when their employees take alternative transportation to work, then they've got a bike or a car to use during the day to get their errands done, and that's proving real effective in urban areas. Sierra Nevada provides premier parking spaces for electric vehicles and hybrids and plug-ins. And the last category, number 4, helping your employees through their benefit package to increase their financial and human health awareness. And this is self-evident. When you have events or you have a company cafeteria, do you provide junk food or do you provide local organic food, right? Then you can go into all the, the masseuse and the Pilates and the life coaches that the big boys all provide, mostly in, highly dense, cash-rich urban areas. But the last thing I'd like to close with is this option of helping your employees increase their financial health. So most of us, when we first started putting our money away every month into our 401k or our Simple, we didn't really know it was masked behind those mutual fund acronyms, right? Well, turns out there's a whole lot of companies you may not want to be invested in. So one of the things that I really believe strongly in is to offer your employees an option for socially responsible investing or community-based investing. So I put my, $100 a month into my 401k. Do I have the option of doing that with a socially responsible company or a community-based company? So with that, I've gone over my time allocation. I will sit down and put this to my-
Thank you, Sarah. Lots of great, intriguing examples there. Thank you, thank you. I forgot to sort of describe the format of the shots for anybody who might be new. I'm new. But so basically the intention is for the panelists to speak fairly briefly, 5 to 7 minutes, and then leave time for questions. So please be thinking of questions that you'd like to ask of our panelists. Our next panelist is from Big Sky Brewing, who is one of our sponsors. I hope you've been enjoying some beer. Trinda Reeks is a sales and events coordinator. She's been at Big Sky since 2004. She graduated from the University of Montana Business School in marketing management. She's managed sponsorship and community contributions throughout their full 26-state market, and she has emphasized special events here in the local Montana area, and she's also supports 120 distributors throughout their selling area. She also likes to ski, float, bike, and camp around the Northern Rockies with her son and partner. Trinda.
That's going to be a hard act to follow. Following Lisa, who is way better public speaker than I. As Jenny said, I work for Big Sky Brewing Company. I've been there for about 10 years and watched them, and we're going to kind of focus on, I guess, the brewery is going to kind of focus a little bit more on kind of alternative transportation. That's kind of our big shtick at what we do as our program. So we have a bike bus. It's basically bike, bus, walk at the brewery. So we have a big graph set up in our break room, and anyone can participate. Whether you carpool, you bike to work, you rollerblade, you skip, whatever you decide to do, as long as it's not going in a car by yourself to work. So we started January 1st, and you have until December 31st to obtain, different levels. So we have 2 levels. We have 80 days, full days, to and from work, and 120 days. And at 80 days, you get $250 towards, you can either do cash, which is taxed, or you can do $250 towards a purchase of something. Whether it's skis, it's a bike, it's a good food store, you know, it doesn't matter. You could spend $250 at Fred's if you want. I mean, that's the thing. It could be anything. And so then at 120, I don't think anyone's done that, just so you know. Simply using that. So at 120, you get $500, which, so it's, I mean, it's a fairly significant, you know, so it's a good incentive to actually want to. And before I had a child, I was the record holder at Big Sky Brewing Company. But it was a great program because I was able to buy my ski pass. I bought a new pair of ski boots. You know, I mean, it was anything I wanted to do. My husband and I went on a river trip together. It really does allow people to, it encourages people to be involved in the actual, you know, commuting part of it, because it's, you know, I mean, it's a substantial amount of money, and especially in today where, you know, you don't have a lot of extra spending money, and, you know, so it's been really good for not only people that to bike or whatever, but actually people sharing vehicles in the work. So, you know, we have a large group of folks that live out in Houston and the 9 Mile area, and those guys all meet in Frenchtown first thing in the morning, and they all ride into work together. And so it's good for, you know, just the kind of camaraderie of our employees, and it's been a very good.
How many employees do you have?
We have 39 employees, 40 employees, and I'd say we have anywhere between, of those 39 employees, we have 6 people that don't live in Montana. There are outside sales reps, but even for our outside sales reps, we still allow them, if they take a bus, if they get picked up by, you know, we have these things called ride withs, and so you go ride with a distributor for the day and you go on their sales route. Well, if you have the distributor pick you up at your hotel, or, you know, you take a bus to the distributorship in the morning, that's counted as carpool. So it's a, you know, we're able to bring everyone in from, even that aren't there. So of the 39 employees, I bet we probably have somewhere between 25 and 35% involvement, which is pretty good on a, you know, program like that for us. And I'd say the program is probably maybe 5 years old. So
Great.
So that's our alternative, and I just wanted to kind of touch on a couple other things that the brewery does that I do think are really good ways to kind of, our longevity program. At 5 years, you get $1,500 towards something. You can't take it as cash, but, you know, at 5 years, my husband and I did a salmon trip down the Maine Salmon for 7 days, and we were able to purchase some gear for our boat. We had people that went to Disneyland. We had people that bought computers, you know, I mean, and then at 10 years, apparently I haven't hit there yet, but I'm getting close. It's the next bump up. So at 10 years, you do $2,500. And I mean, that's certainly like a bigger goal, but we have a lot of employees that have been with the brewery. I mean, 10 years for me, like I'll be 10 years in June, and that's not unheard of. Like we have a lot of employees that have been there 15 years, 16 years. So that's been really good. And then the last one I want to touch on is just our alternative bonus program, because I do feel like this is kind of part of the HR thing. And the brewery will just do little purchases. You know, if you, instead of, you know, they do bonuses, and they'll do the cost of living increase and that type of stuff, but they'll do, like, we have a brewer that we purchased a pair of skis and a pair of backcountry bindings for, which, I mean, and I know I'm talking a lot about skiing, but obviously everyone at the brewery, like, it's kind of all in our forefront right now. Well, I mean, for winter people, but we have a lot of people that are really into the winter scene. And, you know, they bought a pair of skis and a pair of backcountry bindings, which, I mean, that's almost a $2,000 investment, which, I mean, if you've got a mortgage payment and you know, I mean, that's a big deal to not have to purchase that on your own. So those are just kind of some of our programs that we do. And
It's also a great example of how it doesn't matter the size of the organization or the culture of the organization, there's a way that you can find a match that is really meaningful to the employees and appreciated by the employees and makes them feel like you know who they are and what turns them on and how to make them happy employees.
Yep.
So
that's all I got.
beautiful. Thank you, Trinda. Obviously, it's going to vary a lot according to the employer. Our next speaker will be talking to us about a healthcare environment. Sandy Willig is at St. Pat's at Providence Hospitals. She's BSN, RN, CCP. She's the program manager for the Home Base program, which is an employee wellness program. It helps employees and their dependents set goals and health goals. She also teaches part-time for a local nursing assistant program. She's got experience in managing employee health and workers' compensation and more traditional benefits kinds of programs, as well as drug testing, flu vaccination, fit for duty programs, a whole variety of related things. So she can probably put some context on things. She's also in the process of completing a master's in health administration through Montana State. So she is born and raised in Missoula, so she's a local girl. She likes quilting and reading and camping, hunting and fishing. Welcome, Sandy. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the first program that St. Pat's offers as an alternative benefit is obviously the home-based program, which is near and dear to my heart because I manage it. Basically, this is a wellness program that we provide for our employees as well as their dependents. So they are able to work with one of my care coordinators, and it's kind of a collaborative process where they work with the employee, the care coordinator, and their provider to make sure that they're connected to care. They can do some goal setting, get them connected to some weight loss programs, nutrition. We do some nutrition visits for them. So it's really just to try to help keep our employees healthier, which helps reduce health costs, not just for the employee and their family, but also for us as the self-insured employer, and of course increases productivity and whatnot. So we're getting ready to start our second year in it, so we are definitely seeing some changes and some reductions in our claim costs, and for the employees that are working actively with a care coordinator, we're definitely seeing some improved health benefit from that. So that's been a great program. The next one that we do is the CSA, or the Community Supported Agriculture Shares. So we work with Western Montana Growers Co-op, so there's about 39 local farmers that are represented in that. This is our second year. For 2012, we had about 70 employees that participated in the program, and I think between the summer and the fall shares for this year, we'll probably have about 90 that are in that. This year, in addition to the fruits and vegetables, they also had the option to purchase shares for meat, bread, egg, and cheese. Seems like I'm forgetting something. So. Oh, and coffee, that's right, coffee. No chocolate, but coffee. So they're able to come into the hospital and pick these up once a week. One of the things that my program did, and we did it last year as well, is for those that are actively working with care coordinator in the home-based program, I paid for 10 people up to $75 towards the cost of their share. We also offer a payroll deduction for people. So those of you that are familiar with the cost of these programs, it's over $500, which is, for a lot of people, to eat healthy, that's a huge chunk of money. And so being able to break it up into smaller amounts, I think, is very beneficial for people. So. And then a couple other ones that I know of, I'm not directly involved in them. One of them is what we call the Compassion Fund. So this is an employee assistance fund. The money for this actually comes from employee contributions via payroll deduction. So when we have an employee that is struggling, whether it be something catastrophic or a health problem or a death in the family, they can actually request assistance to these funds, and it's up to $1,500 a year. So if they've had a death in the family and they need help, paying for funeral costs, or maybe times are tight and a spouse just lost their job and they've got a power bill or a mortgage to pay. So, kind of gives us, we're obviously as a hospital built on caring. So this is an opportunity for people to kind of care for our own, and not just all the patients that we serve. Yeah.
You don't mind if we ask questions along the way?
Well, I will ask you to hold it. so
Okay.
If you don't mind. We'll just finish this.
So the next one, Commuter Club, we don't offer $250 or $500, but we do have a Commuter Club as well. They do monthly raffles and some staff recognition. St. Pat's donates 50 cents for each day commuted to the foundation to continue to promote some of the sustainability projects that we have going on in the hospital. So for 2012, they had saved over 300,000 miles, which equated to 70 tons of carbon. So, and then the last couple are, we have a knowledge fund and a tuition assistance. So tuition assistance, $1,500 a year for someone working on undergraduate, or sorry, $1,000 for undergraduate and $1,500 a year for graduate. And then the knowledge fund are scholarships for employees, as well as children of employees are also eligible to apply for those. So.
Sounds like a great place to work. Thank you. Thank you, Sandy. That was a great. Last but not least, we have Julie Osborne from the Ecology Project International. She's co-founder of Ecology Project International, and she's also the advancement director. It's important to recognize that this Missoula-based nonprofit that is active in 6 countries has been recognized by Outside Magazine for the last 2 years as a best place to work in the country, and also EPI was recognized as the Montana Small Employer of Choice by the Job Service Employers Council. So we're going to find out some of the reasons why. And of course, in addition to loving her job, she enjoys adventures on or near a river with her partner and 2 beautiful children. Welcome, Julie.
Great, thanks. I put together just a couple of slides. First, to start out, maybe the next slide is about just what EPI is, or what we are. We're a nonprofit organization that works on science, education, and conservation. And our goal is to empower youth, our vision is to empower youth to take an active role in conservation. And we work in 6 countries. Here in Montana, it's our headquarters. There's 15 employees here, and then we have about 70 staff internationally. So when we think about our benefits, they've really evolved over the course of the organization's history. It's about 15 years old. And we really try and take a holistic approach to benefiting our staff in terms of, it kind of ties back to what Lisa was saying, that professional, personal, and community. And community plays a really important part in what we do. I'll start out just by the benefits that I list here. They come back to our core values as an organization, and because we are focused on conservation, one of our core values is to get outside or to enjoy the outdoors. And so we have a number of benefits that help us to get outside. We're based right in front of right in front of the river downtown. We have inner tubes in the basement, so folks actually can go out and float at lunchtime if they want to. There's a bunch of different discounts that folks qualify for through various gear companies. And then we, of course, offer travel to the sites where we work, discounted for families that work at our organization, and then employees, we try and get to different sites as much as possible. But a really important part of getting outside is just having the time to do that. It's a number one challenge, I think, for everybody, is just having that time. And so we do offer paid time off and sick time. We also offer wellness days. We call it the I feel too good to come to work today benefit. And all you have to do we started calling it powder day, but we didn't want to limit it to just the winter time. So if you feel too good to come to work, we really empower the employees to decide if they have deadlines or things that can or cannot be put off that day. But if they feel too good to come to work and there's nothing pressing, they can just call their supervisor and leave a message and say, I'm not coming in today, and go out and enjoy what we have out our back doors here in Montana. We also offer family need leave, so if you have a baby or if you have to care for a sick loved one, you can take time off, extended time off. We have flex time and telecommuting options that really help with sustainable transportation, but it also just helps with that idea of getting outside. And then we do offer a sabbatical for folks that have worked for the organization for at least 7 years. And then the other benefits I list here come back to our core value of making a difference. As a nonprofit, we really want to empower our staff and our students to make a difference in the world. And that really ties back to this value of community. And so, you know, the transportation that really connects to community and different transportation programs that we have include a similar program, it sounds like, as these two organizations where folks get 50 cents a day. I was calculating as Trinder was talking, they get $3 a day if it's 80 days, or $4 a day if it's 120 days. It's way more than our 50 cents a day, but I love our site because it buys them lunch for the month. They get to go out, you know, they go have lunch out a couple times a month if they commute every day. It's cash that shows up on their desk. So it's a fun incentive. We also participate and try and organize activities within our building for Bike Walk Bus Week. And other kind of sustainable transportation activities that happen in town, and that's part of the kind of giving back to the community, is not just doing it for ourselves, but doing it, trying to incentivize other folks to do it as well. We have a bike share. We were fortunate enough to receive the Cool Green Office Award that the Montana Radio Company gives out once. I guess we were the first office to receive it last year. But one of the things that we got was a gift certificate for Big Sky Bikes, and we decided to purchase 2 bicycles and a trailer so that folks that commute alternatively to the office but need to run errands, or they drive to the office but need to run errands, they still have some pedal power to get to where they need to go, and they have a trailer to transport whatever it is around. And we offer that benefit not just to our employees but to everybody that works within the building. And even if you guys stop by the building and need a bike, just let me know. Somebody else does. We just want to encourage folks to skip the vehicle if they can. We're also located downtown on a bike trail. That's really important. I think that's overlooked oftentimes, is just where you site your business. And the idea that by being located downtown, it's easy for folks to carpool, it's easy for folks to take the bus or to bike. And that, you know, it's a lot cheaper not to be located downtown. It's a real business decision to make that choice to be somewhere centrally located. Community, we really like potlucks, so we have potlucks all the time. And it's just that idea of building a sense of community. We do it just with our building. We have a shared conference room there. We bought a building downtown, our nonprofit bought a building. We have 5 different nonprofits housed there, and we try and build that sense of community, not just within our business, but within the other businesses that are nonprofits that are located in the building, and then the constituents that they all serve. We try and create a welcoming place that folks can come and feel part of something that's important. And then we invest in folks' education. There's professional education funds available, and retirement matching. You know, one thing that I find with some of these benefits is that as an employer, you really have to incentivize people and educate people about what exists. So you can't just like have an employee handbook and assume that people are going to take advantage of it. You have to create programs so that they understand what the benefit is. They try it out a couple of times. Even the education benefit, we encourage supervisors to mention to their staff like what, educational opportunities they might pursue for professional development, because it's not something that people necessarily automatically self-engage on. That's it.
Great, thank you. See why your workplace is an award-winning workplace. But across the board, all of these speakers have really emphasized the importance of values alignment and having the programs aligned with values. So I know we have at least one question, so is this time for Q&A?
Yes. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Sandy. I had 2 questions. One was about the Compassion program. Now, does the funding to that come from the hospital system, or does it come from the peers, the employees?
Straight from the peers. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you put some sort of word out that says this person is looking for.
Right. It's called 30-minute break. It's got a name, but you can sign up, and whether it's $5 or $10 a payday that you want as an employee to donate into this fund.
Sounds really excellent. The second is your health program that includes the nutrition visits with nutritionists, etc. I can't remember what you called it. Something care.
Home base.
Home base. Okay. How many of your employees, first, how many employees do you have, and then how many employees participate in that?
We have, Beth, you're going to have to help me with this, 2,500?
About 1,800.
1,800 employees. We have probably about 150 that actively work with a care coordinator.
And is that also part of that program, the exercise program?
Yes, so there's quite a few things that they promote
Okay.
as part of that program. So one thing is our fitness center that our patients can
wondering
use.
about youth.
That actually just went live September 1st. That used to be that employees paid, I think it was $20 a month. Now it's free for employees and the spouses. No children dependents, but the employee and either their spouse that's on their insurance plan can actually come use the fitness center. I think the nutrition visits are $15 for someone to come have an hour with a nutritionist. My care coordinators also do several walking and running programs. So at lunch break or before work or after work, depending on whether somebody wants to walk or run, it gives them someone to do that with. Put together a team for the Dirty Dash and sponsor the Missoula Marathon. So,
And I want to just commend you on the farmer program, the co-op. I think it's just excellent. And the fact that you will contribute to that so that people can participate is, and how many people participate in that? What did you say?
this year
90?
we're probably gonna have about 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I have a girlfriend that works for St. Pat's and she does the CME.
It's
She
nice, and
loves
people can
it.
share it,
Yeah.
so, if it was just me or me and my husband, and, you wanted to share with someone else, so then you can split the cost, so it's kind of nice, so people are it's kind of funny to watch them cut up a cabbage and split it into 3. They always send an odd number of things, so it's like, well, you can have the extra this, and I can that. So it's kind of fun to watch, see how people share.
Community
but-
building.
Yes. Learning to share.
And just to kind of interject, that's a fantastic example of a way that's, empowering people over their own food, helping the local economic base through growing our farming community. I mean, it's,
Well, we've got a couple, one of our nutritionists actually, we get a list of the vegetables that will hopefully be in the share. Obviously there's changes depending on weather and whatnot. So we're trying to get recipes out for people, because there's some things, I even look at them and I have no clue what the heck it is. So it's kind of nice for them to know what it is and how it's, best eaten.
And all of these things are promoted through your social media? Okay.
Our internet and flyers and.
We have a couple more questions, yeah.
Me?
Yes, please.
So this is a question for Julie. Could you speak a little bit more about the sabbatical benefit? The terms and.
Yeah, so after you've worked for 7 years, so not at the start of your 7th year, but at the end of your 7th year, we offer 3 months at 50% of your salary. So 3 months time off, 50% of your salary.
that's so huge.
Well, you do have to give at least 6 months notice that you're planning on taking that and work with your supervisor so that it's at a time that it accommodates your normal workload. Like it wouldn't be great if, if you were the CFO and you took it right at tax time or something like that. But other than that, there are some qualifications to it in
Is there
terms of that.
criteria for the sabbatical?
No, it doesn't have to be related to your work at all.
But
It can
it's just 3 months.
It's 3 months.
And how do you hold the position during the time? Like, if it's a certain, I might have missed, you might have just addressed that and I missed it because I was taking a note, but if someone, a key employee is taking 3 months off, then how do you fill in that niche while they're gone
Right.
so that they can come back?
Well, the idea is to make it so it's not at a crux time for that position, and so that folks can kind of fill in to make it happen. We've also toyed with the idea of because we haven't had a lot of folks feeling that they have the space to take that amount of time, so we've toyed with the idea of doing half that time at full salary, because it would be the same cost as the organization, but it would be 6 weeks. That would be a much more kind of approachable amount of time to take off, but still equal, maybe not equally, but satisfying in terms of the headspace and just fulfillment that you would get out of it. And so we haven't put that on the books, but we've shared that with folks that that's an option if that's something you prefer to do that would make it so you could do that more easily.
Would you
Because
ever
people-
think of expanding the time with less, like 25% for 6 months?
Well, the feedback we've gotten from our staff is that it's hard enough to think about going at 50% salary when you have a mortgage and you have like some fixed expenses. Even doing that 50% is hard, and that's also a reason to think about doing it for 6 weeks at 100%, because then you don't really have to deal with the financial side of the equation.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that we would be open to talking to folks about that, but I haven't heard much interest in that. It's more on the other side, trying to shorten it, but you have 100%.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Have you had a lot of people take advantage of that?
We just had a couple of folks that have been, that have planned it, yeah.
Yeah, that's
And how many employees do you have?
We have 15 in Montana.
I mean, that's not really a culturally, go ahead.
We have another question in the back, yeah.
This is for the 3 people who work for the non-governmental agencies, and do any of you guys have a socially responsible investing opportunity through your 401k or retirement option?
It's not our standard option. It's something we've sat down and talked to our investment advisor about, because it's not what he recommends for the employees to do, and that bothers us. But he's also said that he can offer that benefit if people inquire, but it's a much lower return. And so we let our staff decide what they want to do.
I totally disagree that the returns have to be less.
That's what our financial
So
advisor
do you
said.
guys have an
I don't,
option?
I don't think so, but I don't think that it's something that they have explored, so, it's not to say it couldn't be an option.
And St. Pat's does, but, yeah.
So there's, yeah, another question.
So I have a real geeky accountant kind of question, and I don't know whether Sandy or Lisa or Beth is going to answer this, but the compassionate program, that's not, so Rebecca kind of asked the question about, they're not giving to for specific employees, they're giving to a pool, right? And then you guys decide who gets it.
Right, well, the program does, so I mean, depending on,
Right.
and my understanding from what I understand, they've never had to tell anybody no. There's been the funds available, and the funds don't go to the employee, it goes directly to the mortgage or.
No, I didn't realize
And
that.
so my next question is, you guys are a nonprofit. Are you able to allow the employees to take a charitable contribution when they put it into that compassionate fund? So nonprofits could set something up like that, where they create a fund that they can give stuff to their employees, or to various employees, and the actual individual donating to that gets a charitable deduction at the same time. So, I mean, then everybody gets even more benefits out of the whole thing. That's what you guys are doing.
That is, it goes to the foundation. Another thing that's less transparent probably is that employees can donate their PTO or their paid time off. So if someone has trouble, and that's to a specific person, to name the person and say, I'd like to give 16 hours to Sue.
And that's a charitable deduction as well.
I don't think so.
No, that just comes off your
Just comes,
vacation time.
Okay.
So if I've accrued 400 hours and I give you 40,
Right.
now I have 360 left.
The kind of flexibility, I mean, you can see how it's just a matter of being creative enough to think that we could do this for people. Do you have a question?
Well, yeah, I just, from day one, when I was first introduced to the concept of the Sustainable Business Council, I've always been more interested in the sustainability of the life of the worker compared to sustainability for the environment, for example, and that relationship. And I'm both really excited and intrigued and happy to hear these benefits. But then when I look at kind of the broad swath of history and time and the relationship of employer and employee and the sustainability of the workers' lives, this sort of follows off on the retirement thing, which to me seems like it really needs to be a bottom line essential to look at first, because so much of what I hear seems so youth-oriented, frankly, or like, well, I mean, on one hand, we want to have the loyalty of workers that has been lost over history. Now we have a very transient workforce. But what happens to you when when you get old and you can't be working there anymore? In some ways, I feel that the employer has gotten a great deal, to spend, $2,500 of 10 years of loyalty and have nothing at the end when somebody can't work for them anymore. And it's a bigger societal question, I think, but I would hope that the first line would be to think also about retirement options and helping people, as well as sort of the immediate. I don't know if any of you have discussed that kind of retirement question.
I'll give the panelists the opportunity to respond in a moment, but I first want to just really thank you for raising this, because obviously, you know, there have been times when retirement benefits were much better than they generally are today in terms of, you know, the end of a work career. And I also wanted to really acknowledge your naming that, you know, the triple bottom line includes not just economic and environmental profitability, but social profitability. And it's much less tangible. It's often much more difficult for companies to wrap their heads around how we do this. And it's much easier for them to kind of feel like, oh, well, we already do that. We treat our employees well already, you know. And as I was doing a little bit of research to prepare for tonight, this issue of the values alignment and the culture that you create is actually very critical there, and it needs to be a culture of valuing people throughout their whole lives. So the better assessments that assess an organization around sustainability will ask the hard questions about these, but it can easily be glossed over. So
I don't know if some housing benefit could be developed for long-term for when you retire, where you might, you know, be able to purchase, you know, an accessible condominium or something as a result of your loyalty to your company, for example, at some discount. I don't know.
In a green building, of course.
Would any of our panelists like to speak to these important issues?
Well, I think as far as the brewery is concerned, I mean, we are pretty young. Like, I mean, our oldest employee, I don't, is in their early 50s. So,
I like that term, young, to describe
you know, so I think that they do have a very good retirement plan. I mean, as far as like traditional benefits, the brewery does match up to 6% on their 401k, and they last year they did they matched 100% as a bonus for people on what they put in for their retirement. So it's, you know, as far as that traditional stuff, they're pretty savvy, and it's been really good, and they've shopped it around a little bit. And, and we actually use a financial advisor that's married to one of our employees, so, you know, which is kind of nice. So it's kind of, you know, kind of circulating that profit right around families and whatnot. So.
And we asked our panelists to speak to all their alternative benefits rather than the more traditional. So I'm sure that.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that you're speaking to or alluding to is that we've shifted from defined benefit plans to defined contribution plans. And when my grandparents or even parents worked, they were given an equation that when you earn this much, we're going to pay you, you know, you earn X, you're going to get Y per month until you're deceased. And if you pass first, then normally the wife, you know, was going to get the extended benefits. And those plans simply do not exist anymore. And so the theory is that we were transferring a lot of that liability to our governmental programs. But unfortunately, the demographics are such that there's no longer 3.8 workers or kids for one worker. The triangle's upside down, right? Yeah, there's one worker for 3.8 retired people. So, I mean, I think it's a combination of a lot of those things. I love the creativity of thinking about, like, how could we provide affordable housing in your retirement? Or, you know, I mean, that's the kind of thinking we need, is where can we bring in those, you know, needs and apply innovation to it.
And some companies are offering, you know, will provide, you know, completely parallel to child care leave, you know, parental care leave. I mean, that's happening more as one form of that. But any other questions? Yes.
Well, my question goes perhaps beyond just the benefits, but it could apply to the benefits. I'm wondering what ways there are to measure numerically, state the triple bottom line. Obviously, we have established methods for the profit, but what about the people of the planet?
Well, this could be.
saying, no, don't go there.
Just jumped into another world.
This is a very big topic, and there are a lot of different ways to approach answering it. There's a lot of different systems of measuring, and, you know, a lot of different companies that have developed their own, and, you know, I'd be happy to talk with you. We have in-house, the Sustainable Business Council has developed, primarily Lisa and Sue, actually, with some help of a couple other people, have developed an assessment for small businesses, because most of the assessment tools really are oriented towards much larger organizations to you know, but, yeah. And there's certification programs.
There are some
Yeah.
metrics in the Sustainable Business for Dummies book.
There you go. There you go. By the way, there's some So one more question, yeah.
What's interesting is also here are primarily women in this audience, just interesting observation. My question is concerns nonprofit and corporate partnerships. And employee engagement is like the buzz right now in the CSR realm, corporate social responsibility. But bring it down more at local level. I'm wondering how on the corporate end, or the small business end, how you have found that your nonprofit partnerships have helped with your brand recognition and employee engagement, and on the nonprofit end, have you found that your corporate partnerships have been impactful?
For us, I think the corporate partnerships that have the most impact are the ones that we have with organizations near some of the project sites we work, where employees can also volunteer at the project sites and get the kind of hands-on experience with the mission of the organization, so that it raises awareness and kind of connection amongst the employee body at the corporate partner, as well as providing a financial support for the organization.
Are those corporate partners in Missoula?
No, they're not in America.
Okay.
I can say I work for a nonprofit. We have a partnership with Big Sky and do beer sales through their concert series. It has been hugely financially beneficial to us as the nonprofit organization to do. I don't know how it's been for Big Sky to partner.
I mean, oh yeah, it's. Fail. That actually has been a really, really great thing for us, or the concert series, and we've raised, split between when we started doing them back in 05, 06, and then we took a big hiatus, and then have done the last 3 years. I think we're somewhere right in the $200,000 range of money that has been generated back into our community, whether it's Brennan's Wave, our Mobash Skate Park, the youth homes transitional home that they're raising money for, I Ride for Tanner, which is Kathy Jackson's son, who passed away up in the Flathead a few years ago in a car accident. So, that's been, the concert series have been above and beyond anything that, with just partnering with a nonprofit or two nonprofits for this past 2 series, and the amount of marketing that we have, exposure that we have gained from that is immeasurable. I mean, it's our sales in the summer right around concerts spike every time in the city of Missoula.
So this is a great example where you've got these values that get embodied through these benefits to employees, who then are fantastic ambassadors for the organization because they love working there and it really fits their values.
Yeah.
And then it's extended through stakeholders in the community to other organizations through these kind of partnerships. And so that's a whole another component of the social bottom line. So we could talk a lot more about other examples, but I'm glad those got raised. We are out of time, but given the topic of sponsorship, I want to make sure and thank our sponsors tonight. We've got wonderful sponsors for tonight's event: Family Dental Group, Portico Real Estate, Cherry Creek Radio, Energetics, Sunelco Solar, of course, the Bridge, the Pizza, the Big Sky Brew, the Loft here of Missoula, the Independent, and of course, MCAT. So I want to also thank each one of our panelists, Lisa and Trinda and Sandy. I'm like, Julie. I just moved here a month ago. I have a million new names in my head. So wonderful job, each one of us.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks to the audience for your great questions. Please come join us again on October 16th to hear about local climate change.
I learned a lot.
And feel free to hang around and have another beer.